I thought I was going to be original and bring a summary of where we're at and where we're going. And it turns out all the YouTube channels and podcasts I follow were already doing the same thing for New Year's. So go me. But you know what? That's all right, because this is important. Every year, I think it's important to pause and assess a few things about where I've been, where I'm at today, and where I want to go in the future. It's an opportunity to look over the goals that we as a community have set for ourselves and then rate them. It's also my chance to share some of the ideas for the path over the next year with the Everyday Marksman. And with that, I want to say welcome. This is the Everyday Marksman, the podcast where it's all about tactical skills for living a more adventurous life. I'm your host, Matt. Welcome. Our website's everydaymarksman.co. There you're going to find today's show notes, as well as our awesome community of marksmen, our articles, our YouTube channel, and of course, all the other podcast episodes. This is going to be a very informal, not a whole lot of lecture episode. I'm kind of going to share some information with you about where we're going. The first time I did this is in about 2021. I called it a fireside chat. And I look back and I laugh at it quite a bit because the whole direction I thought I was going to go with things did not work out. I didn't have the time, the patience, or the know-how to make the whole investigative entertainment angle work. And, the whole idea about collecting people's stories never really worked out much either. I had a few submissions, but I just never really felt like I could do that whole format justice. And then last year, started 2022, Alice and I discussed a bunch of our goals for the year. And I will say that both of us were far more successful there. And I'll touch on those in a little bit. But one of the important bits was balancing seriousness with fun. And I want to start there. Now, on that note, I need to give you a bit of history of the Everyday Marksman. But why do I need to do that? Well, you may not know this, but over the last 6 months especially, but over 2022 and later half of 2022, the Everyday Marksman has gotten very big in some platforms I did not expect. Our podcast downloads have gone nuts. I gained like 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, despite not even really posting much anymore. That's going to change this year, by the way. And our website still runs about 100,000 readers a month, which, in the grand scheme of really popular gun content creators, that's small potatoes. But for me, as a solo guy who's just doing this for fun with the help of my wife and couple friends and the community of supporters, I feel pretty damn good about that. So I realize that you listening to this may not actually know a lot of the history of how we got here and how things evolved over time. And I think that's important to know for what's coming next. So let's dive back a little bit. I started the very first version of the Everyday Marksman back in 2014. I was still active duty and shooting was my hobby. By all accounts, most of the blog was just my own shooting journal and a bunch of lessons learned as I tried new things out and how they worked for me. The most popular articles, the ones that got the most traffic, were a series of technical pieces about selecting the right components for your AR-15, whether it was optics or barrels or triggers or whatever. Those articles all actually stemmed from a series of Word documents that I wrote in 2013 for a bunch of my friends who were asking me what to buy all the time during the whole 2013 gun buying spree. Those articles are still the most popular ones on the site today. Fast forward to 2018, 4 years later, I got serious, air quoting. I moved to my own domain, which you know today, everydaymarksman.co, and I ditched the shooting journals along the way and focused on the technical aspects and the how-to articles designed to really help people versus telling my own story for things. And then I started expanding the scope of the site a bit more. Instead of just being about shooting and gear, I started talking about fitness, survival skills, tactics, mindset, the whole picture, as I like to talk about it. And why do that? If you ever start creating things on the internet, all the advice says to niche down, talk about one thing and be really good at that one thing, else you're never going to grow and energy is wasted. Okay, cool. Did you know that the average lifespan of a blog is 100 days? I'm sure the average is actually skewed quite a bit by a lot of folks who just decide one night that, you know what, I'm going to start a blog. They get a free WordPress site, publish a few times, and then forget about it because they realize it's a lot of work. Going beyond that a little bit, I think most solo blogs, especially in the firearm space, don't last more than 2 to 4 years. At that point, if the blog has not turned into a full-on business, like the firearms blog or Truth About Guns, The authors, as good as they may have been, eventually just run out of things to say and money to continue writing new things. I think the reason that I expanded my scope was really because I didn't want to get bored. I wanted to have more stuff to talk about. And along with that was this growing idea that I just didn't want to cater to the hardcore gun enthusiast. There's a lot of content creators out there who are just always talking about the latest and greatest gun and buy this and buy that and do this and that. And that's not who I want to appeal to. I wanted to be this bridge that introduces so-called regular people to shooting related topics, give them a roadmap of things they could learn, and then give them a direction to go do more. That had to last more than 100 days, right? Well, it's been 8 years and 4 since the whole getting serious part of it. And I think we're doing okay. And I cannot say the same thing about a lot of my fellow bloggers. They have not been so lucky, unfortunately. I pour one out for them. Think about the good times. We used to trade a bunch of emails back and forth, but a lot of those guys just don't publish anymore. Now, I want to jump forward a little bit. As we expanded the scope of Everyday Marks to include a lot more topics, I started thinking, well, maybe there's a business here. There's a business idea. So 2019 or so, I got it in my mind that I wanted to turn the Everyday Marksman into a full-on business and be a full-time content creator. I hatched this whole plan to optimize my search engine skills, focus on creating a community who was willing to pay money, and wanted to be able to quit my day job. Well, turns out reality doesn't work that way. I found out the hard way that building ad revenue is difficult because most ad networks don't actually want to work with gun blogs. They put us in the same category as drugs and porno, and therefore we're not family friendly enough, and therefore no money for you, even if you get all the site traffic. That changed in 2022. I did start working with another company, but that's not really that important. It just kind of tells you what the mindset that these places are in. As for the community aspect of it, it's been through several iterations at this point, starting with a message board on the site. Then it was a independently hosted, app with forums and postings and polls and stuff, which was fun. And now it's just into the Discord server. But I realized along the way that I really was never going to get enough people to subscribe for a monthly cost. And the reason for that was there's not a whole lot more for me to say privately than I'm already talking about publicly. And it's not like I'm some renowned expert on the topics I write about. I'm in the business of talking to experts and then bringing them to you. And I just didn't feel right about asking for people's money for something that I was willing to give them for free. So bad internet entrepreneur, Matt. I guess I'm not cut out for that. And then to round that piece of it out, why it didn't work out in 2019, I ended up seeing quite a bit of success at my job. And the amount of income that the site would have to create just didn't seem feasible to replace my actual job. The Everyday Marksman makes enough to pay for itself, pay for some match fees here and there, buy the occasional thing for a review, but not a whole lot more. Definitely not enough to support my family. And that's okay. It's not all bad. Even though I was getting pretty frustrated at the time, a few good things did happen. And the biggest one I want to talk about is getting published. One day, I was sitting at my computer and getting an email through the contact page on the site, and it was an editor at American Rifleman magazine. The message was simple enough. It was a brief introduction and a request that I call him back. I was concerned that I had somehow pissed off the NRA and that the magazine was going to take issue with me because I said something they didn't like. Well, it turns out they wanted to add me to their stable of writers, and just about everything I wrote during 2020 and 2021 were all technical reviews of products, and my name wasn't attached to any of them. They were, your typical staff articles. But they did pay, and that gave me opportunity to both try a lot of things I wouldn't have otherwise gotten to do, and also buy new things for supporting the site and for you. Email subscribers and community members in Discord server did get a preview of some of those things because I would do a little side video and email it to people, but nothing ever went public. Later in 2022, this past year, I started getting my name attached to a few things. And then in the January 2023 issue, which you may already have in your mailbox, I got my first feature. It was about the Sako S20, which was a great rifle. I still have a fair bit of this imposter syndrome. I've never considered myself an expert. I don't have national shooting titles to my name. I'm not I don't have encyclopedia knowledge of obscure weapons, and I'm definitely not some high-speed special operations dude giving out tactics. I'm your everyday marksman. And as much time and effort as I put into these pieces, it took time away from doing things on the site. I'm really thankful for the opportunity. I hope to keep doing more of it. And it did give me space to evaluate where I'm at today and what I think comes next. So I want to walk through a few kind of fundamentalisms about the everyday marksman. Writing has always been my passion, and that's where the bulk of my effort goes. Video for the YouTube channel, as it turns out, takes a lot of time to do well. It's not just the writing, but then also the filming, the editing, creating thumbnails, and then writing the show notes, and then doing it every week. It's something I still want to do, but I realized that the frequency required to do that well was just unrealistic. I have other priorities. And in my opinion, I think the YouTube channel is going to be more of a support for what you find on the website. The podcast, the one you're listening to right now, serves a similar purpose. It's a supplement to the main site. It's way faster to create and edit these audio episodes, and I can get a little bit more narrative with it. But it's still supplemental, and that may change. I don't know. If you come by the website, everydaymarksman.co, and maybe leave a comment on this episode, tell me what you think. But I may just start creating more audio versions of my articles for you to listen to. Now, I want to come back to something I said at the beginning about 2022 goals. I had several for myself. Big four: read a book a month, focus on my handgun shooting, dial in some nutrition habits, and I had a fitness focus. Now, I'm happy to say that I did most of these. Allison and I were really happy enough with our nutrition success, meal planning, and how it was affecting how we felt in our results, that what was supposed to be a 6-week challenge became a 6-month challenge, which turned into just do it for the entire year. And now it's just the way that we do things. On the gym front, I was able to pull off the longest unbroken streak of continuous workout programming in my life without injury. Unsurprisingly, supporting a lot of that was reading about health and fitness topics, all the books that I was reading. And I've been happy enough with what I have been doing here. Ended up investing a lot of money to build a garage gym tailored to my needs. And that's going to be a future article I'll write about. But the thing that fell to the wayside was my shooting practice. Though I had some pretty good results there. We'll get more into those probably in later episodes. But I want to talk about that's where the goals were. And a lot of those are carrying forward into 2023. So with all that setup done, I want to talk about the few key themes that I've noticed and where we're going, next. Starting with quality over quantity. I have grown less interested in pursuing traffic and clicks for the sake of it. The one constant message throughout my history of learning to run the creative side of things is that consistency is king. In other words, in order to grow, you must publish new material on a consistent basis. Historically, that puts me under a lot of pressure to push out something every single week. Ideally, that would cover all 3 formats. It'd be a written article, there'd be a podcast episode, and a YouTube video. Sometimes I can do that. That's a lot of energy. Most of the time, I cannot. Doing the ebb and flow of my day job, it usually means that I get burnout by about August or September. And if you've been around long enough, that tends to be when things get pretty quiet for me. So I'm taking that pressure off the table. I'm going to continue to publish as often as practical in whatever format is most appropriate, but my focus is going to shift a bit more towards hammering a consistent message and doing it well. That could look like bringing up old articles and rewriting them a bit and making it better and more useful. Or it could be spending more time diving down deep thoughts of particular topics. So quality over quantity doesn't mean I'm not going to publish anything. All right. You're still going to get things to listen to and read. Don't worry. I'm not going to go silent. Number 2, big theme here is I care a lot about the community. Even when I'm not constantly writing and creating, if I get busy in my day job, some of the most enjoyable parts of my day-to-day is just hanging out with the folks on the Discord server, talking about the various Marksman-related topics and even some of the off-topic stuff. It's been the source of a lot of inspiration for me. And a lot of the members have started submitting articles for publishing on the site as well. So shout out to you guys for just running with it and writing things and submitting it. I always really appreciate it. And I love sharing it with everybody else. Now, to be honest, It's the community that keeps me going. If it was really all just about me publishing new things into the void, I probably would have quit a long time ago. So the question I'm asking myself is, what can I do to make that better? And I think the answer comes down to doubling down on the core message of the Everyday Marksman, which is a focus on a big picture. Anyone who runs a gun blog long enough will tell you that it's the gear articles that get the most traffic, by far. People will tolerate rants and detours here and there, but most of the shooting enthusiast community is there to read about guns and gear. In my opinion, that content is a necessary component to draw people in. And I have to accept that some percentage of that audience will then click on the About page and read a little bit more into what the site is about. And some small percentage of that group will actually sign up for the email list and join the community via the link that comes through when you sign up for the emails. I'm not interested in changing that dynamic very much because I like that there's that out of 100 people who find an article, I'm probably only going to get maybe 2 people by the end who actually sign up for the email list and then join the Discord server. I'm okay with that. It means they're committed and they actually want to engage. In the practical sense, though, I'm not really interested in adjusting that. But what I do want to do is go further in building out the core philosophy of the whole Marksman. What you're going to see is some revamping to the About page, the Get Started page. There'll be some new email campaigns and automations, and a big emphasis on addressing all aspects of becoming a well-rounded marksman. Gear and guns will still be there, but it's going to be a lot of other stuff too. Which gets to another topic that I'm kind of nervous to talk about here because when you say it publicly, people kind of hold you to it. So maybe that's why I'm doing it. But for several years, there's been several folks in the community who have been telling me to write a book. And I've been flattered. I've resisted that primarily because I have imposter syndrome. But with that as a healthy bit of skepticism that anyone would be willing to pay for something that I wrote. And my experience, though, getting paid for writing to a magazine has shifted my opinion a little bit on that. And I think I'm going to give it a go this year. I actually started on this in 2022, but never really committed to completing it at a certain point. So today, I'm telling you and everyone else, this is something I'm going to do in 2023. Now, the topics are yet to be completely determined, but probably ironically, I'm going to start with collecting my thoughts about gear and marksmanship fundamentals. It's the place I have the most confidence in writing about. And if you're interested in this, I'll make some periodic updates about progress on that front via the email list. Let me know. Let me know if you're interested in hearing more about that. Now, to wrap this up, of course, I have another set of personal goals for myself in 2023. Allison and I have been discussing these a lot lately, and I may not talk about them more in the future. Most of them are fitness related. I also have a list of a few firearms projects in mind to work on over this year, including something I've never really done before, which is shotgunning. And I'll write more about that in due time. But for now, I've laid out the heading and where we're going to go this year. And I'm open to feedback from you as well. So with that, I want to say thank you for listening. I'm glad you got to join me in 2023, and I look forward to talking to you a whole lot more this year. So take care. This is Matt signing out. Make sure you come by the website, everydaymarksman.co, and I'll catch you later.